Okay, well, thank you so much for being on tonight's webinar presentation of the iPro Network Group update call. And just going to double check, make sure you can see the screen and you can hear one last time before we get started. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. All righty. Well, it's a pleasure to be here tonight speaking with you. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody for being on this webinar presentation on a Sunday evening. I know that a lot of you, have your Sundays as sacred as I hold my own. Typically, this is a family day and a God day for me, and it certainly has been that. But at the same time, moving into a week of tremendous opportunity, wanted to be able to address the group. And so we have some very good information to share with you here on tonight's webinar. And so let's go ahead and jump right in. Let's go ahead and get started. I see that we have a ton of people on here tonight. So let's go ahead and get started here. Okay, good. Now, on the special update webinar, folks, I want to make sure that I manage expectations clearly. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of just read some of the things that are on the screen here tonight. For those of you that were on my last company address, you may remember that I announced the removal of our rewards program. Now, that decision was a tough one and probably not the most popular. However, it was a necessary decision to make. Life is full of those moments where you have to make some tough choices to adapt, to change, and ultimately to overcome. Now, with that being said, folks, we're definitely in a space right now where decisions are being made. And we're going to talk about that. Change is actually something that is happening right now. And we're going to talk about that through this webinar. I know that most of you are expecting some updates regarding packages, pricing, and commissions on products. Some of you on this webinar have been expecting those since Wednesday's update webinar. So I want to apologize for that. We certainly aren't trying to not give you that information. That's not the motivation behind it in any way, shape, or form. And we've had some updates on other things that have been replacing those particular webinars or that particular thread of information. So we give updates every single week. I think one of the benchmarks of our company is that every single week, pretty much since inception, we have been updating you on everything that's happening. And I think that it's pretty fair to say that it's pretty transparent, good, bad, or indifferent. We always like to communicate to the field and let them know exactly what's going on. And we've been through some things over the last, if you remember, we did our official launch on July 7 of last year, of 2017. And, right before that event, there was a lot of change. There was a lot of scenarios, a lot of situations, a lot of challenges that were brewing around that particular date, and even in the one in Tennessee on October of last year, October 20th or 21st, I believe it was. There were a lot of situations and challenges and different things that were happening prior to that event as well. And in the wake of our next event right now, that certainly is the case right now. So first and foremost, my apologies for not being able to give you that information. And on tonight's webinar, we are not going to focus on that as well. And the reason why we're not going to focus on that tonight is because those changes and those packages and those product offerings that have to do with the e-trader, which were the ones that were promised that we're going to be giving on Wednesday's webinar, are so tightly bound and intertwined. Somebody needs to mute themselves out. Has been intertwined so completely with next week's Thrive event. And so to present them now would be counterproductive to the information that's going to be presented at the Thrive event. And so we're in a new season of our business, folks. There's no question about that. New decisions to ensure the welfare of each and every one of you have been taken so that you can thrive, so that your business can thrive, so that the opportunity is still the opportunity that everybody wants to be at. And so I think that when you go and take a look at some of those decisions at the Strive event, they're actually, it's kind of like a revamping, it's an overhaul, from vendors to strategic partnerships, to software solutions, to product offerings and commission payout. Now, all of these are positive. All of these are so exciting, folks. And I'm not trying to hype it up, and I'm going to get to that point in just a second. We don't need to, because our events are world class. They've never been about making money. They've always been to honor each and every one of you for the hard work and dedication that you've done. And certainly this event is no exception. I mean, in my opinion, it is going to be our most powerful lineup. And as we get through the information here today, you're going to see that, that as far as the other two, and it's kind of hard because of the very, very first one, I remember that everybody was concerned with whether or not the event in Tennessee was going to live up to the one that we had in July last year. Everybody was concerned that the one in Tennessee could potentially become a disappointment. And quite the contrary, actually, people that went to the Momentum event in Tennessee came back from that event and just went through a whole new level of momentum immediately after it. Now, remember that immediately before it, there were situations and challenges, and we won't revisit them right at the second, but it was very timely that we all got together and huddled at that event, and that took us to the next level. So some of the things that you're looking at right here on the screen, from the vendors to those partnerships to the software solutions and the product offerings and the commission payouts, all of those have to do, and they have to be presented in such a way that you could see the whole picture, the whole, it's not, just about the e-trader and the packages within that particular product offering. It's the whole picture, and it's the whole opportunity and what that entails and how that's going to be perceived by you at the event, but ultimately that you are able to learn how to present it properly to the field once you go back and take this opportunity to the rest of the people. So Thrive, or in any one of our events, have never been about the company producing revenues. In fact, when I go through the lineup right now, which I'm going to do, it's very important that you understand what you're going to be exposed to at the event. But it's never been a moneymaker for the company. In fact, quite the contrary. I could tell you this, that if we went in and looked at what it actually costs to put one of these events together, and you look at what what the ticket prices are, $99. This is the first event where we actually have some VIP tickets, but I can tell you that absolutely nowhere near is this a profitable event. In terms of revenue for the company, it's profitable in that it is a place where we get together, where we come together, where we unify, where we actually learn from each other what this opportunity is all about, where we are and where we're going to go. And so through June 1st through June 3rd, you are going to be exposed to not just world-class speakers from outside of our industry, but within our industry. We happen to have some of the best trainers and speakers that I've ever seen in any company. And I'm not just saying that because, I'm biased. I've been in other companies and I've seen what they have. And some of the speakers that we have here are just, bar none, head and shoulders above everybody else that's out there. So you definitely want to be there at this event, because there's several things that are going to happen. Now, we're going to talk about change, because things have to change. And they are going to change, and you're going to be able to see that at this event. And so we're going to talk about that in just a second. Change is inevitable. And we're going to talk about 7 facts that are going to show you why you can't escape it. But before we do, this is very important. We're going to go through this because I think it's important that you understand it. You kind of change your mindset and understand that this is important. But at the same time, I also want to tell you what doesn't change, because it's not more important. So my favorite quote on change is, the more things change, the more they remain the same. So here's what does not change. the values of the company, folks. This is very, very important. I think that anybody that's been with us a year and a half, or when we were in the pre-launch phase, and then going into the official launch, and now a year and a half later, or closer to 2 years, we're getting close to that. If we count from the pre-launch, you're going to find that the values of the company, that doesn't change. And those values are integrity. Those values are about doing what's right for the field, doing what's right for the reps, doing what's right for them first before the company. And I think that over this last period of time, we've been able to show that. Actually, in my last address, I was talking about, one of our payment processors that we're now in litigation with. They owe us millions and millions of dollars that we never collected, yet we paid out to every single person, and every person has been paid on money that was supposed to be profit for the company. However, that's been paid out. Why? To make people whole. Why? Because you believed in the company. Why? Because you did what you needed to do, and so the company had to step up and do what the company needed to do as well. So that is our benchmark, to provide products and services and to pay people what we told them we were going to pay them. And so that has been seen by the top leadership. Anybody in impact here, or anybody that's made money here, can attest to the fact that whatever we told you that you were going to get paid, you have gotten paid, even in the face of adversity to the company itself. Has that been our benchmark? So that is not going to change. Why? Because we've been there. We've been distributors. We understand what it takes. We understand the time, effort, and energy that goes into building an organization, and then to build it and then have a company just decide, hey, you know what, we're not going to pay you, or we're going to change things. And that's just not the way we believe business should be done. So second thing is the product vision. That does not change, as outlined in their white paper. That is not going to change. So some people may be thinking, well, there's uncertainty, or what's going to happen. Well, right here, let's end that right now. That will not change. So the vision itself, the outline that was outlined in the white paper, that does not change. Now, the vision of iPro, which is entrepreneurship and education entrepreneurship, and in different categories of online entrepreneurship, that doesn't change. But what has happened is a change and a separation, if you will, of two entities. And that is a major change. And we understand that. And with those changes, sometimes, uncertainty comes, and we're going to address that in just a second. But what also is not going to change is our world-class events. We have probably, we've been at 2 already. And at every one of these events, people have walked away saying, and, it hasn't been to me. We get the emails, we get them in customer service. I've heard them. Yes, I have. And maybe, people are just saying what we want to hear, but I don't think so, because people that have been in the industry of network marketing is what I'm referring to, or even that have gone to the seminar circuits, have come back and said, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that this level of production, this level of professionalism, this level of basically saying thank you to the audience for attending, in terms of every little detail to make you as comfortable as possible at these events, is a process that is really, really taken seriously up to the last detail. And those events are not going to change. And so I'm going to tell you why you don't want to miss this one. But before I do, folks, let's talk a little bit about change. And so we're going to go through those 7 facts really quickly, and then we're going to dive into why you don't want to miss this event. And number 1, change is unavoidable. So let's be honest, change is unavoidable, so why fight it? We already know that we can't control everything, no matter how hard we try. So embrace this knowledge, and you'll be less stressed. Embrace the fact that it will come, and you'll be better prepared to face it when it arrives. Now, in the last, as an adult, I started early on in life. I moved out of my house when I was about 16 years old, and really started getting into business. And in the time that I really decided that this is where I wanted to be, I probably started around my early 20s. And so now, in my late 30s, just kidding, in my mid 40s, I could honestly say that I have about 25 years of being an adult and being in business. Actually, my entrepreneurship started when I was about 5 years old, and I could tell you that change during those last 25 years has been completely unavoidable. We had to adapt. We've had to change. I've had to make decisions that at the time didn't, might have not been the best or might have not seemed like the best thing to do. But to embrace that change, ultimately, it allows us to be prepared, knowing that it's coming so that we can react to it. So this is what Jay Ashner, who's a top author, and he actually writes teen novels. He says, you can't stop the future. You can't rewind the past. The only way to learn, the secret is to press play. So when things change, folks, it doesn't matter what happened before. It doesn't matter what's going to happen in the future. But if you don't get in the game, if you don't understand the rules of engagement and know that something has changed and not participate, then you're not going to see some of the positive things that come out of change. And so it's unavoidable, folks. We have to accept it, learn to deal with it. Change can bring great things. So don't stress out over the what ifs. This is a lesson that that I remember Jim Rohn would always talk about. Why do these things happen? He was talking about the parable of the seed, and why this, why that, and what happens if this person does this, or they go off and do something else, and it's a lot of what ifs. And then the question is, why does it happen, right? So we don't want to sign up for that class, in the words of Mr. Jim Rohn. But here's where you have to look at this quote here from George Bernard Shaw: "Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything." And so sometimes you want to hang on to things 1,000%. And if we don't have all the answers, we don't have all the things in front of us, all the data, all the facts that are the linear side of our brain, or the left side of our brain that deals in numbers and times and schedules and things. And if we don't have all of that, then sometimes we kind of shut down. And so you're never going to experience the best parts of life if you avoid things that are new or different. And we are certainly, absolutely, without a shred of a doubt, going to have new and different things that are coming to this opportunity. And so want to make sure that we have that open mind, and we have that open mind to change. Number 3 here, change helps us grow. Now, of course, not all change ends up being good, but even if it is negative, or even if you perceive it as negative at the time, the fact that you endured that change can be absolutely healthy. So dealing with challenges stretches us and helps us grow, and we all want to grow, right? So here's the thing. As a distributor, I was with the company for 7 years, and our international sales director, Mr. Johnny Reed, was part of that same company, and we had every imaginable challenge happen to us that you could think of. And I remember specifically within that company having to basically start over almost from scratch 3 different occasions, and sometimes the decisions that were made were, we wanted to question those, and we wanted to fight those and not accept those. And I remember a very, very specific time, I was at a crossroads because I didn't agree with the decision. I did not agree at the time. It just seemed like the wrong decision. It didn't seem like, it was the right thing. And I was hinging everything on this one decision. And I remember it was a real life defining moment, because I actually at that moment had tickets. Somebody had offered me a ticket or an airline ticket to go and check out this one company, and the ownership wanted to recruit me, and blah blah blah. Ultimately, I decided to stay, and the reason I decided to stay is I knew the culture. I knew the ownership. I knew the integrity that had been shown up until that point, and I knew that that was where I wanted to stay because of the history, because of what, when you're in the fire and you're through the trials, you could tell a lot about people. And so that is a decision that made me stay. Now, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And I was challenged at that time, and I had to change my outlook on how things really were. Because remember, things are never as good as they seem. Even when things are going 1,000% the way you want them to go, they're never as good as you think they are. And the reverse is absolutely true. They're never as bad as you think they are. Number four, change feels scary sometimes. Some people know logically. See, we know that we need to embrace it, but we still find ourselves fearing it. It is the unknown that seems daunting. Now, this is important, folks, because if you're a person of faith, right, there's two things. There's faith, and then there's fear. Now, either you're going to have faith in faith, or you're going to have faith in fear. And see, a lot of times we have more faith in fear than we have faith in faith. And so we end up feeling helpless and defeated. But remember, even if you can't control what happens, you can control what you do about it. So life is 10%. What happens to you, and the other 90% is how you respond to it. So I choose having faith in faith versus the unknown and being scared of what's going to happen. And you all heard the acronym of fear is, false evidence appearing real. And these are things that we tell ourselves. But when we're in the moment, when we're in the circumstance, and we know that the change is inevitable, it could feel like, oh my gosh, I need to have all the details. I need to have every single fact so I can make a decision because this is the unknown and I fear the unknown. So remember this, folks, whatever you place faith in, whether it's faith or whether it's fear, that's what's going to happen. So be very, very careful in what you put your faith in. Number five, change prepares you for disappointment. And this was a tough one to learn. But every single one of these folks I've learned along the way in 25 years, last 12 years, specifically in this industry, disappointment happens all the time. I know that, having somebody that you've invested time, energy, money, resources, training, and taking somebody under your wing and just, helping them to get to their first $5,000 a month, or getting to their first $10,000 a month, or helping them to get to their first $100,000 a month, or $200,000 in a year, or even getting somebody to get to, the seven figures, and then, they turn on you and they go somewhere else and they do other things. And that's going to happen in our industry. It's just inevitable. It's part of change. And so I remember, I'm not sure who said these words to me. I believe that it was Jim Rohn. Not to me specifically, but on a CD or DVD, and I could be wrong, but I believe he said, learn to discipline your disappointment. And it makes life so much easier, folks. Okay, so we need to learn when these changes come. Now, we're not a product of our past, and we certainly don't have to be prisoners of it. That's Rick Warren's message. And I think that if we hang on to things for too long, we're imprisoned by them, and we're stuck, and we feel like we can't move forward. So learn from those circumstances. Now, this is really powerful here. Change expands your horizons. This is certainly something that is dear and near in my heart. About, let me see, 6 months ago, maybe September of last year, well, maybe more, maybe 7 or 8 months since September, we had an impact leadership training in Las Vegas, Nevada. So now we're going back next week. But I remember that when we were there, one of the things, and we were going through some challenges then, maybe commissions or something was happening, and people, there was change and it was inevitable. So we got together and we did an exercise on perspective, and we actually took all of the impact leaders up on helicopters and that were flying over Las Vegas, and they got a piece of the Grand Canyon, and we're just going through all the mountains and all the landscape, and we went to the dam, and we just saw all different things. And so to see Las Vegas from the ground level is one thing. To see it from up on high is a whole nother thing. And it really was an exercise in perspective, right? That we don't see everything from where we are, right? We just don't. We're seeing it based on what our circumstances are, how it affects us, at a micro level. But we need to understand that there's another perspective. And when change happens, it helps you to expand that. I think Maurice Katz says it best. He always talks about when you have one of these caterpillars go through the transformation from, being a caterpillar to being a butterfly and going through that transformation and that metamorphosis, right? Well, it changes into something completely new, right? But that's not the whole point there. Not only does it change into something that's completely new, but the perspective is absolutely different. I mean, imagine if you're a caterpillar and you happen to be on a sidewalk, right on the lip of a sidewalk, and then all you could see is, if you turn one way, all you look at this gray sidewalk, and if you look the other way, maybe there's another one at the other end of the street, and you may not be able to see much more. But when you go through that transformation, when that change takes place, all of a sudden, you're flying around, you're a butterfly, right? So your view is from up high. And even if you're in the same vicinity, nothing will ever seem the same. You won't be able to see it the same. You won't be able to experience it the same. It'll be something completely new. And so that's what change does. It actually expands your horizons. And number 7, folks, and probably the most important as it relates to tonight's webinar here today, not that the other 6 aren't important, but change brings opportunities. Change is going to open up new doors that you could have never imagined. So imagine this for a second. If you had a job and you did it the same way with the same approach, in 10 years, chances are you'll have the same job, doing the same thing and getting the same pay. What if you learned something new? What if you learned a new skill or took on a tough project or got a certification or think outside the box? Who then gets a promotion, you or Mr. Seymour? So this is what Anthony Robbins says: if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always gotten. And this is key, folks. If what you're doing right now, okay, if the way you're seeing your business right now is satisfactory, if you are exactly where you want to be in income, in influence, in reach, if there is nothing that you can learn, then don't come to Thrive, okay? Because what you're going to learn there is not just for iPro Network. I mean, some of the speakers that I'm going to talk to you right now are going to impact you in such tremendous ways. And you're going to, gravitate to certain ones. And that's why we have such a tremendous lineup this time that you definitely don't want to miss it. But this is going to impact every area of your life, not just business, certainly not just iPro. We're going to have our own internal speakers, and we're going to have our own trainings as a company and everything, and all the trainings and all the positive things that are going to happen that are going to be announced at the event. But on top of that, just being able to get trained by some of the people that are going to be here is going to be phenomenal. So it's going to change the way you think. It's going to change the way you see things. And certainly that's going to happen at this event. And so let me go ahead and just kind of give you a rundown of some of the people that are going to be headlining the event. Mr. John Maxwell, one of my mentors. This man is amazing. We had him at Thrive event. I could tell you right now, what we pay Mr. John Maxwell, the ticket sales don't even cover that. Just this one speaker. In fact, for $99, folks, you wouldn't even be able to get on a webinar training of Mr. John Maxwell. So, New York Times best-selling. He's written, I believe, about 65 different books. I could be off. But he sold 26 million books in 15 languages. And I mean, we had him in Tennessee. We heard him speak. And we had him there for 4 hours. I could tell you that nobody moved. Nobody wanted to go to the bathroom. Nobody wanted to check their text messages or check their email or anything. They were hanging on every word. They were scribbling and writing, trying to catch all of the knowledge, all of the wisdom, all of the nuggets that Mr. John Maxwell was giving all the audience. It was just unbelievable. Those 4 hours, folks, actually felt like they were only about 45 minutes. And I can tell you that not only was it a world and a wealth of knowledge, but it was very entertaining, very engaging, one of the best speakers I've ever seen. And you guys are going to be just blown away by what he's going to be teaching here at our Thrive event. So you definitely don't want to miss Mr. John Maxwell. Mr. Kevin Harrington, of course, is one of our advisors at IPN, and certainly going to, been a regular at our events, and he will be making an appearance here at Thrive as well. He's also, part of the promotion of product, and so we're definitely going to be hearing from Mr. Kevin Harrington. And I don't want to speak on all the things that he's going to talk about, but I can tell you don't want to miss it. Now, Ingrid Vanderbilt. I'm really, really excited. Not that I'm not excited about the other headliners, but I am excited about Ingrid Vanderbilt. She has a tremendous story. Very, very powerful story. Bring Kleenex is all I have to say. But I'm just so impressed. I mean, look, her goal of empowering 1 billion women by 2020, and some of the things that she's been able to accomplish. Definitely an entrepreneur in the technology sector. So she just fits really well with everything that we stand for here at iPro Network. And so I'm going to be really looking forward to this. I'm going to be sitting down and listening very attentively to everything that she's going to share. I encourage you, if you've never heard her speak before, you don't want to miss Ingrid Vanderbilt. She is absolutely phenomenal and very impactful. Now, Josh Tolley, boy, oh boy, I'm super excited. He's the author of a book called Evangelpreneur. 3 times best-selling author. He's rated on the top 100 business trainers on earth. He's actually going to be speaking 2 days. He's going to be speaking on Saturday, and he's also going to be speaking on Sunday. Now, for those of you that are familiar with our lineup and how we do things, the first 2 days is secular training as it relates to business, as it relates to iPro, as it relates to, leadership and those types of things that are going to impact our businesses. However, on Sundays, we like to do, we want to feed the soul on the spiritual side. And so you don't want to miss him on Sunday. He's going to be speaking on business, of course, on Saturday. And this book, Evangelpreneur, is one of my favorites, folks. If you don't have it, you want to read it. I could just tell you this, the first part of that book is almost like a scary story. Okay, it really puts in perspective where we are as a nation, as it relates to the economy, as it relates to working 9 to 5, as it relates to being in debt, getting out of debt, and what needs to be done. And it was really a scary book, the first chapters. When I first read this book, it was so impactful. And, I don't want to give a lot of it away. You guys are going to be exposed to him for 2 days. Remember, Saturday, it's all about business. He's going to be one of the first speakers on Saturday, and it's going to kind of set the tone of entrepreneurship at a high level. And so you definitely don't want to miss him. And once again, we're going to have him on Sunday. Now, somebody that I purposely left out of the lineup is a special guest that we're going to have. And that special guest, folks, is going to be, once again, extremely engaging, extremely entertaining, really, really powerful. Never seen him before, as far as being on our stages before. And I'm just not going to give it away on this webinar. For those of you that come, you're going to be impacted. You're going to learn how to be able to identify people right away, how to know who they are, what they're about, what makes them tick, and how you're able to tailor your presentation or your pitch, if you will, or how do you present to those particular people, and how to be able to read them and tailor your presentation to those people. That's one of the things. He's going to be speaking twice, once on Friday and once on Saturday, and he's one of the people that is also going to be at our our live con. Well, we always have a band, and we have the everybody get together. I forgot the technical word for that, but reception. We're going to have the reception. He's going to be there as well, and so you don't want to miss that. Of course, at the VIPs, you guys know that you're going to have John Maxwell. You're going to have Kevin Harrington at a VIP lunch. You're also going to have a training specifically just for the VIPs with Mr. John Maxwell. So that's going to be very, very powerful. Now, you're also going to hear from, within the company, of course, Carla Sanchez Pacheco, the intelligent one of the Pacheco family. You don't want to miss her. I'm telling you that the direction and the changes and enhancements that we're going to have are just going to blow you away, and you definitely want to hear from her. But here's what I wanted to show you real quick. And sometimes we take it for granted who we have. Now, you can't take for granted some of the people that I've just told you about, but if I were you, there's that saying that the people that you hang out the most are is going to equate to the sum of your income, right? The 5 people that you spend the most time with. And some of the people that are here within the company that are 7-figure earners, like, for example, we have people like Mr. Bob Byram, and we have people, we have other, I'm not going to name everybody, but he was up on stage in Tennessee, so that's no secret. And you're going to get to hear from Mr. Bob Byram at this event, and he's going to be one of our speakers. And a lot of you have heard the name, understand who he is, but this is where you get a chance to meet those type of people. You get to meet the Bob Byrams of the world that can, kind of go anywhere and make money. Well, how do they do that? What's their secret? What are their tips? What are their nuggets? And this is where you get to hear that, not some speaker that's coming from outside of our industry or network that has fame and fortune outside of networking, but you're going to get it from people that are actually living it. They're actually doing it. You're going to get to hear from, or even if you don't get to hear from them on stage, you get to mingle with the rest of the impact leaders. You get to kind of, pick their brain, if you will. If you ever get a chance to pick Carla's brain, I've been trying to do that for the last, 20 years or so. And she's just a wealth of knowledge and information that, she's going to forget more than I'll ever learn about just about everything. I think she knows it all. But she's so gracious with all of her knowledge, and she's always willing to help out. And so she's probably the one that works the hardest in iPro Network. So again, you're going to be able to cross paths and meet people like Mr. Salvatore Leto, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, is one of the strongest presenters, speakers, trainers, producers, networkers, outside or inside of iPro Network, bar none. I mean, that's just the way I see him. It's not because he's my friend; it's because it is what it is. And the energy and the tenacity and the speaking ability that he has is just unbelievable. And so, I'm always thrilled to hear them. But, this is a chance where if you know who he is, where you could actually, experience being with him, having a conversation, say, oh my God, he went through some challenges and his business wasn't where it needed to be. And he had to travel to events, and he had to go to events to get to that next level. And he did it. And it wasn't on his first year, and it wasn't on his second year, and maybe it wasn't on his third year, but hey, all of a sudden, this is a man that's made, probably more than the top 0.05% of the industry. And he's a very young man. He's a family man. And when you kind of get to hang around these types of people and find out their stories, well, guess what? You can't do that on a webinar. You can't do that on the phone. You got to go where the source is, and the source is at Thrive in Las Vegas. And that's where you're going to be able to experience these types of people, like Mr. Maurice Katz. I mean, anybody that knows Maurice Katz knows that this is a man of deep spiritual values. Not to say that the other ones are not, but this man wears a spirituality everywhere he goes. It's not something that he switches on and switches off. This is a man that is led by the Spirit in each and every day, in each and every situation, circumstance, whatever, it doesn't matter. And so to be able to learn from somebody like that of what makes them tick, what's at their core, what's their compass, and why he's a 7-figure earner in our industry, and not coincidentally, but intentionally, and somebody that's made money in multiple companies, you want to meet these people. You hear their names and you're like, oh yeah, but no, these are the types of people that you want to be around, because guess what? When you don't do that, who are you really listening to? See, these are the people that you should be listening to. But when you're not around this, you're listening to the wrong things. You're listening to the wrong outlook. You're listening to the wrong attitude. And that's why it's so important that you go to these events. Again, Mr. Johnny Reed, he's going to be doing stellar presentation at the event. He's going to be doing something that we've never had at any one of our events. And I'm excited because every time, I've been listening to Johnny for about, I don't know, on and off for the last 11 years or so. And I can tell you that each and every time he speaks, I'm going to learn something new. If you're paying attention, if you take it for granted, oh, yeah, well, you know what? I was on Tuesday's leadership training and, I've already heard it. Well, you got it wrong. You are going to be exposed to something you've never been exposed to before at this event. And I'm not just saying that. He's got a special segment that he's going to be doing that is going to be, once again, very engaging, very entertaining. And I think that people that walk away from that training are going to be like, whoa, they're going to be blown away. And again, I've been listening to him for 11 years. And when he speaks, I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to learn from him because he's got over 28 years of experience. And, experience is not synonymous with success. Experience is experience. Experience means you were there. You showed up. You participated. But to have successful, continuous experience over the last 28 years, not many people can say that. And to being at every area of our network marketing industry, from corporate to the field to master distributor to CEO of his own company, and to be able to, come from the seminar circuit, and you just can't get that type of experience. And that's what we have, folks. So you guys are going to walk away tremendously blessed by this event. And so if you attend this event, this is what could happen. Well, this is what is going to happen. The top one, you're going to get trained. You're going to be immersed for the next 3 days on business principles and everything from leadership and everything from innovation and technology and e-commerce and I don't want to give it away, guys, but you guys are going to be exposed for at least an hour and a half to some products that are just going to blow you away. And I'm not hyping it, guys. I really am not. I spent about, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half this morning showing one of our leaders kind of a sneak peek, and he was blown away, absolutely blown away of the level of professionalism, the thought process, the work effort that's gone into one of our newest product offerings. And you guys are going to be blown away. And so you're going to get trained on that and what it means and how does it apply? How is it relevant to today's world? And you just, you're going to walk away excited. I mean, I guarantee it. So you're going to learn about these new product offerings. You're going to get fed, not just on the business side, but on the spiritual side, for those of you that want to get fed and nourished. Because when the spiritual and the physical is in perfect alignment, folks, there is absolutely nothing that you can do. And you're going to be exposed to that. So you're going to learn how to present the opportunity the proper way. Your team's going to leave energized, right? So you want to get there. You don't want to be there alone. You want to be there with your whole team, because this is what's happened at every single event. We huddle together, and that's, it's kind of like the coals in the fire, right? When they're all together, they're just simmering, they're flaring up, and they're just red hot. But when, some of them start to fall away and move away from that, well, guess what? They start getting cooled down, and ultimately they just fizzle out. So if you're right there on the cuff and you're right there thinking, man, should I go? Well, not only should you go, but you need to go there with all of your people, with as many people as possible. I know that there's some leaders out there that were, kind of forward thinkers, and they probably have some extra stuff. Or contact the company. Let's see if we can't match you up with some of the leaders that might have some advantages there, maybe in tickets or whatever. And let's see how we can help you get there. But don't get there by yourself. Get there with your team. That's going to be the most powerful thing that you can do, because that's what's going to take your business to a whole new level of success. And again, this whole thing isn't to hype up the event or hey, you know what, we need to make money at this event. That's not it. This is about you. This has always been about you. It's always been to reward the people in the field to expose them to world-class trainers and coaching and mentoring, and that otherwise would be so prohibitively expensive to do on your own, to get all of these people under the same roof, or even to attend any one of these individually, for the price that we bring it to you. It's definitely to equip you, to train you, to getting your business to the next level. So folks, I want to thank each and every one of you for attending this iPNG update webinar. Again, my apologies if some of you expected a different thing. I hope that I've made it very, very clear why it is that we need to expose you to all of that information so that it can be presented and intertwined with everything else and not as a separate thing, because it really is a whole package. And that's why we're going to do it next week at the event. So again, thank you for coming on and being on here on a Sunday night. I want you guys to have a tremendous rest of your evening and have a tremendous Memorial Day weekend. We want to honor those people that allow us to do what we do, because without somebody out there that bled for us so that we didn't have to, we wouldn't be able to take advantage of the opportunities that we have. So moving into tomorrow, you know, just a shout out for everybody out there that has lost somebody, and we want to honor those people tomorrow as well, and remember that that's the reason for that, and it's not just an excuse to, you know, have a barbecue. So thank you so much, folks. Have a tremendous evening, and God bless. Good night.